Hi, welcome to this game review. We'll have a look at a game from the Jobava London system, and we'll see a few ideas, what to do, what not to do, and when to do it. So here black tried to get some counterplay against white's typical attack, but it didn't really go to plan. So let's have a look. Started as the King's Indian, although a few moves later white played knight c3. d5 is the typical option. If black doesn't want to allow the pirk, he will play d5. So bishop f4, bishop g7, e3. All these moves are quite standard. Bishop e2 and then c5. So black is getting his standard counterplay. He is trying to attack the center while white is going to probably play h4, h5. And in general, it's important to understand that positionally white's position is not that stable, because this knight on c3 is a bad piece, but white went there to develop it as soon as possible and be able to castle queenside at some point. Next, knight e5 happened, so white's next moves are probably h4, h5. And here black played knight fd7, which is quite a standard maneuver to try to get rid of this knight. White went back, black went back again, and white decided on h4. Knight c6, all decent development. There's no reason to fear h5 yet. And sometimes they sacrifice exchanges like this. Oops, no, of course we won't take with the pawn, we will take with the knight. And the white can, in principle, give up the exchange here and try to attack the king, but usually this early on it's not enough. So knight e5 was played. Black played knight e8, which is a strange position for the knight. In general, if we want to move the knight, we would probably move it to d7, try to exchange this knight on e5, since after knight e8 there is no threat of taking on e5. In principle, black can at any point play h5. This gives the f3 g4 hook, but again, these attacks aren't that simple for white. They usually only look scary. So knight e8 was played. White took on c6 for some reason. He could just play h5 and continue his attack. The knight on e8 is a bit dubious, but on c6 was taken, h5. And here clearly black needs some kind of counterplay, and here he missed his chance to gain very serious counterplay by taking on d4, which is natural enough, and then playing queen d6 with a fork on d4 and b2. And of course white has his own chances with a takes g6, bishop h6, ideas like this, but black has a quicker attack. He is already taking the b2 pawn. He should be brave like this, and white's attack is not in sight just yet. So this is basically the only good continuation for black here, but instead he played queen b6, and the problem here is that now knight a4 is possible, and this is also a standard maneuver that has to be recognized in the Jobava London, especially when on c6 the pawn has come, and now the c5 square is a big weakness for black, which white can exploit with his bad knight. The reason black should have taken here is because now he could take on d4 with the queen as an answer to knight a4, but now this is not possible. He gives this check. After c3, anyway, the white knight will arrive to c5, and white will have domination on both sides of the board. Still, the position is quite decent for black. It is playable. He took on d4, white took back, knight f6, the pieces were developed back, and white played a takes g6, but even better would have been to play like alpha 0, put the pawn on h6, bishop would have to go here, and then white can castle queenside or kingside, and then start to play a bit more slowly, maybe put his rook on e1, the knight on c5, and black doesn't really have much real counterplay. Instead, f takes g6 was allowed. This is the correct recapture here, opening the rook. Next, b4 was played. The queen went back to d8, and white kind of continues his attack on the king, but at this point he should recognize that there is no attack, Though he has achieved some small positional gains on the queen side, he should just castle king side and try to go from here. White has a small but enduring advantage. There are some weak squares, this bishop is bad, and both sides have a playable position. After bishop h6, this doesn't really make much sense. White is in no position to actually attack. The bishop was taken, bringing the rook to a strange square on h6. And now, after knight e4, bishop f3, and now black made a small mistake with king g7. And why is it a mistake? Because the rook on h6 is already quite poorly placed. There is no reason to let it go back to h1, where it could eventually go to e1, to some open file. Instead, black should again get some counterplay, maybe with e5, to develop the queen to g5 using the rook's position like this, or maybe put the knight on g5, threatening to take here. Bishop f5 can be the next move, e5 eventually. And here white's king is stuck in the center, surprisingly, and black's king is very safe. White will not be attacking here, and black has an advantage here. There's not much white can do about this threat. If he moves, then I would assume e5 should be played, and after white takes, maybe even knight e4 back, attacking some pawns, the queen can come out, and black has good counterplay. But king g7 happened. Now queen c1. Black develops the queen, though again e5 was called for, opening up the position, while white's king is in the center. Now white takes, and black makes a big blunder with rook f4. So I guess he didn't calculate this very accurately. The point is that now this rook is hanging, but at the same time he is self-pinning his own king, which will potentially be on h6. Instead, black should just recapture. Though the pawn structure isn't very ideal here, white's king is still in the center, his pieces are not very well coordinated, so black will have enough counterplay to compensate for the bad structure. But here the problem is bishop f3. White gives up his rook for the moment. Black has to take because he is a piece down. And then after g3, this is the big point, white gets the rook back, and the game will be over because white will win a piece at the end of this. So the rest of the game wasn't very necessary, but at the end of the day white won because of simple tactics. Black got a little bit too greedy with rook f4. He wanted to keep the structure intact, but it did not really work out. So in this game we saw a few good ideas in the Jobava London. Precisely, we should have considered taking on d4 before playing queen b6. There was no reason to keep that tension, and there black would have very good counterplay. Instead, as happened in the game, white could have gotten a good advantage positionally by not continuing his attack and developing his pieces, the king, the rook on a1, but instead he decided to keep attacking, but the attack shouldn't have worked.